My name is Emily Bennett, and I am 28 years old. My story begins when my sister, Eliza, got engaged. I had always imagined that her wedding day would be the happiest day of our lives, but in the end, it turned into something far darker. I had always been the one who supported her, the one who sacrificed everything for her. But that was the moment when everything began to unravel. I had done everything for her, paid for every last detail of her wedding. The dress, the flowers, the venue, the catering. All of it was my doing. I had given everything, and not once did I expect anything in return. But as I stood there, watching her smile, I started to realize something. This wasn't just her day. It was the moment she left me behind. "Are you sure you're okay?" Eliza's voice broke through my thoughts, her tone filled with what I thought was concern. But something in her eyes didn't match the words. She wasn't looking at me, not really. She was distracted by her phone, texting her soon-to-be husband. Smiled, but the smile felt wrong. Forced. "I'm fine, Eliza. Really. This is your day." "Don't worry," she replied, her fingers flying over the screen. "Everything will be fine. I can't thank you enough for all you've done." And I had done everything. I had paid for it all. And now, standing in the back, watching her walk down the aisle, I felt a hollow ache grow in my chest. I had done it. For her, for us. But now it felt like I was nothing more than a tool in her life, and she didn't even know it. She was glowing, of course, her face radiating happiness as she stood before the altar. She was the center of attention. The one everyone admired, and I was just a shadow standing in the background. I had always been there for her, through every tear, every heartbreak. I was the one who picked up the pieces when she needed help. So, when she got engaged, I thought this was my chance to finally share something with her. I thought we could experience something special together. But that was naive. As I watched her say her vows, something twisted inside me. She was smiling at her fiancé with the kind of love I'd never seen in her eyes when she looked at me. I had given so much of myself to make this day perfect for her, and yet, in this moment, I realized that it meant nothing. She was moving on, and I was being left behind. The ceremony felt like a blur. I was there, but not really. I tried to smile, to clap along with everyone else, but I felt numb, disconnected from everything. This wasn't the moment I had imagined. It was the moment I realized how little I mattered in her life. Later, after the vows, Eliza found me again. She hugged me tightly, her eyes shining, her happiness so bright it almost hurt to look at. "You did it," she said, beaming. "This wouldn't have been possible without you." And I stood there, smiling back, but it was a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I had given up everything for her, and now I was just an afterthought. She had moved on, and I hadn't even been noticed. "It was worth it," I said, my voice quiet, barely a whisper. But as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Nothing felt worth it anymore. The wedding day should have been one of the happiest moments of my life, but instead, it felt like a blur. There was joy, sure, but something about it felt empty. I watched Eliza walk down the aisle, glowing, and for a split second, I felt proud. But then, the emptiness crept in. I had given everything, my money, my time, my energy, but all I saw, in return, was her distant smile. The joy around me felt hollow. After the wedding, I thought things would settle. I expected the warm, familiar connection we once had to return. I reached out, tried calling her, but it was like talking to a stranger. Her responses were curt, distant, like she was too busy to even acknowledge me. She had been cold before, but this was different. I could feel the shift. It was like I didn't even exist in her world anymore. "Eliza, can we talk?" I asked, trying to sound calm, though my heart was racing. I couldn't understand why she was pulling away. "I'm fine, Emily. I'm just busy," she replied, her voice flat. She wasn't even looking at me, her eyes fixed on her phone as she walked out the door. It wasn't just that she was busy. I knew something had changed. The affection she had once shown me, the closeness we shared, had been replaced with something colder, more detached. It felt like I was invisible. Days passed, and I tried harder to get her to open up, to give me a chance to explain how I felt. But every time I reached out, she pulled away more. And then I realized I wasn't just being ignored. I was being erased. I hadn't noticed it at first, but it was in the little things. The way she would ask for my help with something and then barely thank me. The way her husband, Mark, would greet me with a polite smile, but nothing more. It was like they had moved on without me. My place in her life had been replaced with new people, new priorities. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone. The notifications from her wedding pictures flooded my feed, pictures of her and Mark, happy and in love. But not one of them included me. Not one. I had been the one to make her day possible, the one who had stood behind her every step of the way. But now? Now, I was just a forgotten detail in the background of her perfect life. Why don't you just say it? I muttered to myself. I was angry, not just at her, but at myself, at the way I had let it happen. I had been so desperate to please, to be needed, that I never stopped to ask if I was actually wanted. Emily, are you okay? My friend Sarah asked, calling me out of the blue. I didn't feel like talking, but the words spilled out anyway. No, I'm not okay. Eliza, she doesn't care anymore. It's like I don't even exist to her, I said, my voice breaking. Maybe she's just adjusting to being married, you know? People change. I've heard that before, I replied, bitterly. But this is different. She's changed, and I'm not a part of her life anymore. Have you told her how you feel? Sarah's voice was cautious, like she wasn't sure how to handle my pain. I tried, I said, bitterness creeping into my words. But it doesn't matter anymore. I hung up the phone and stared at the silence. I had poured my heart into this family, into this sister, and now it felt like everything I had done was forgotten. My sacrifice, my loyalty, it meant nothing. I had become a ghost in my own family. That night, lying in bed, the realization hit me like a wave. I wasn't just ignored. I was an afterthought. I had given everything for her wedding, and yet, it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. And the resentment? It was starting to grow. Slowly, like a seed being planted in my chest, it festered. The truth was undeniable. My family, Eliza especially, had taken everything I had to give without ever looking back. And I had nothing left to give. I should have known. I should have seen it coming. But I didn't. When my mother passed, I thought I would be surrounded by family, by people who cared. I thought we would mourn together, help each other through it. But that day, everything changed. The moment the will was read, my entire world shifted. Emily, are you all right? Eliza's voice broke through my haze. But I couldn't answer. I couldn't focus on anything except the words I had just heard. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. The lawyer's voice echoed in my mind. All assets are to be transferred to Eliza and her husband, Mark. No further distribution. I felt my heart drop. My body went numb. I didn't know how to react. I stared at the lawyer, then at Eliza, and then at my family. Every eye in the room was on me, and I felt like I was suffocating. What do you mean, everything? I asked, my voice trembling. It felt like I was speaking from a distance, like it wasn't even me asking the question. It's what Mom wanted, Eliza said, her tone matter-of-fact, as though it was the most natural thing in the world. I'm the one who took care of her, who helped her in the end. The words stung. I had been the one who'd supported her for years. I had been the one who made sure she was okay, made sure the family was okay. I had sacrificed everything, including my own life, for them. Wait, what about me? I asked, barely able to get the words out. What do you mean by no further distribution? The lawyer cleared his throat awkwardly. There are no provisions made for Emily, aside from the funeral expenses. I blinked, trying to process the words, but they didn't make sense. But I'm her daughter too. I could feel the anger rise in my chest, but I didn't know who to direct. It at Eliza, Mark, the lawyer, my mother? Emily, I don't know what to say, Eliza said, her voice soft. But there was a faint smirk on her lips that made my blood boil. Mom wanted things this way. She knew that Mark and I would make sure things are taken care of. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. This wasn't happening. My own mother, my own flesh and blood, had completely erased me from her life, from everything. All the sacrifices, all the years of putting my own needs aside for this family, and it meant nothing. It meant nothing at all. I gave up everything for this family, I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. And this is how I'm repaid? Eliza? I turned to her, trying to keep my voice steady. You took everything from me. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. It's not about that, Emily. It's just how things worked out. She paused, then added, It's better this way. I felt my chest tighten. The weight of the betrayal settled in like a heavy burden, pressing down on me. All I had done for her, for this family, and now I was nothing. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor as I pushed it away. I don't belong here, I said, my voice cold and sharp, like a knife. Eliza didn't try to stop me. She didn't even flinch. She just sat there, her eyes following me as I walked out of the room. My heart was breaking, but I was too angry to feel the full weight of it. My mind was consumed by one thought: betrayal. And as I slammed the door behind me, I realized that no matter how much I had given, no matter how much I had sacrificed, I was still nothing in their eyes. I was just the one who had been forgotten. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But all I could do was watch, feeling my heart crack with every passing second. Eliza didn't even look guilty. She just stood there, her eyes blank, like she didn't care. I could barely breathe, my body stiff with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. I had spent so much of my life giving to her, being the good sister, the one who always sacrificed for her happiness. Every birthday, every holiday, every moment I had. Put aside my own dreams, my own needs, just to make sure she had everything she wanted. I had been her rock, her shoulder to cry on, the one who picked up the pieces when she fell apart. And now? Now I was nothing but a shadow in her life, an afterthought. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The words caught in my throat. My stomach churned, and the weight of everything I had done, everything I had lost, crashed down on me all at once. Eliza, I finally managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. How could you do this to me? After everything— She didn't answer right away. She just stood there, her arms crossed over her chest, looking at me like I was some kind of stranger. The coldness in her eyes made my blood run cold. I didn't ask you to do any of this, she replied, her voice so casual, so uncaring. You did it because you wanted to. Wanted to? I laughed, though it felt hollow, like a broken sound coming from someone else. I did it because you were my sister, because I thought you needed me, she shrugged, uninterested. Well, I don't anymore. That was it. That simple, cold response shattered me. The anger that had been building up inside me since the will reading boiled over, mixing with the raw, painful truth of what she had said. I had given up everything for her, and she didn't even care. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. I stood there staring at her, my hands shaking at my sides. I couldn't stop myself anymore. You don't even care, do you? You never did. Eliza, I tried to speak again, but my words got lost in the knot in my throat. I've given up so much for you, and this is how you repay me? She didn't flinch. She didn't even apologize. She didn't even look like she understood the depth of the hurt she had caused. She just turned away like it wasn't even worth her time. Stop it, Emily. You're making this into something it's not, she said, her voice distant, cold. I don't have time for this. And just like that, I was done. My mind raced, every thought cutting through me like a blade. I felt a shift deep inside, something darker stirring. The rage was no longer just about her. It was about me, about everything I had been, everything I had done, and how it meant nothing to anyone. I was just a casualty in her life, easily discarded when she didn't need me anymore. I turned away, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I could feel the anger burning inside me, but it was no longer just about her. It was about taking back control. I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let her win. Not when I had given up so much. I won't forget this, Eliza, I muttered, more to myself than to her. But she didn't hear me. She was already gone, already moving on, already leaving me in the dust. And somehow, that hurt the most. Things went quiet for a while. The kind of quiet that weighs on you, that settles into your bones and makes everything feel distant. The family tried to act like everything was fine, but I knew it wasn't. They expected me to just get over it, to let things go, but I couldn't. Every time I picked up the phone, every time I saw a message from Eliza, it felt like another slap in the face. Hey, Emily, just checking in. How are you? Eliza's message blinked on my screen. It was always the same. Empty. Casual, as if she hadn't just cut me out of her life. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My hands shook every time I thought about replying. Every word felt like a betrayal to myself. I wasn't going to pretend like everything was fine when it wasn't. But the silence between us, it gnawed at me. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the phone. It was like a weight pressing down on my chest. I thought about calling her, about letting the anger pour out, but every time I tried, the words got stuck. I couldn't give her that satisfaction. Hey, Sarah called me up a few days later. I've been trying to reach you. You're still avoiding her? I sighed. How can I not? She's acting like I'm the one who's wrong, Sarah. Like she hasn't destroyed everything between us. Have you talked to her? No, I said, my voice tight. Every time I try, it feels like I'm begging. I'm done begging. I stood up, pacing the room. I can't do it anymore. I've given too much, and I'm done. So what are you going to do? Sarah asked, her voice soft but probing. I stopped pacing, the realization hitting me. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. I wasn't going to sit here and wallow in my own hurt while they carried on like nothing happened. I was stronger than this. I could be stronger. I'll make them feel it, I said, my voice more steady now. I'll make them see what they've done. Emily? What are you talking about? Sarah's voice was filled with caution, but I could feel a spark of something in me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I'm not a victim, I said, the words feeling more real than I expected. I've spent so long letting them take everything, letting them use me. But not anymore. They won't get away with this. Sarah didn't say anything for a moment. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Just don't do something you'll regret, okay? She finally said. I laughed, but it was bitter. Regret? No, Sarah. I'm not the one who needs to regret anything. I hung up the phone and looked at it for a long time, my reflection in the screen staring back at me. For the first time in weeks, I felt something stir inside me. The pain, the anger, the betrayal. It was all still there. But now, it wasn't just tearing me down. It was fueling me. I would make them understand. I wouldn't be silenced anymore. I wouldn't be invisible. The plan started forming in my head like a dark storm, brewing quietly at first, and then growing stronger, more relentless with every passing day. Revenge was sweet, but the more I thought about it, the more I craved it. They had taken everything from me, my love, my loyalty, my sacrifices, and I wanted them to feel what I had felt. I wanted them to hurt like I had hurt. "You're really going to do this, aren't you?" Sarah's voice crackled through the phone, a little uncertain. I paced around the living room, my hands trembling with excitement. "Of course I am. They've gotten away with it for too long. Eliza, Mark, they think they can just walk all over me. I get it. I do. But revenge won't fix anything, Emily." I stopped pacing and stared at my reflection in the window, my face shadowed by the dim light. "It'll make me feel better. Until it doesn't," Sarah said quietly. "You're not thinking clearly." I wasn't. I knew I wasn't. But the idea of watching Eliza and Mark squirm, of watching them face the consequences of their betrayal, it consumed me. Every conversation, every moment I spent plotting felt like a small victory. Like I was regaining control over something I had lost. But it wasn't enough. It never would be. I had already started setting things in motion, small things at first, little ways to remind them that I wasn't just a forgotten footnote in their lives. I told myself it was fair, that they deserved it. But the more I executed my plan, the more I realized something was wrong. It wasn't working. And worse, it was only making the pain sharper. I had gone to Mark's office and dropped off an anonymous tip about some shady dealings. I'd made sure Eliza saw the note I left in their mailbox, something that would leave her questioning everything. But as I sat there in the dark, looking at my phone, waiting for their reactions, it hit me. I was no better than them. "Sarah," I whispered, my voice shaky. "What am I doing? I can't stop, but it's not enough." "Emily," she said softly, "it's never enough. Not when you're doing it out of anger." I could hear her sigh through the phone. "The more you try to hurt them, the more you hurt yourself. It's eating you up from the inside." I was silent for a moment, staring at the empty space in front of me, the weight of her words sinking in. "I'm just so angry," I admitted, my voice barely audible. "I know," she said gently, "but you're losing yourself. You're letting the pain control you. And that's not you, Emily. It's not who you are." The truth hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been so focused on hurting them, on making them feel what I had felt, that I had forgotten about myself. The anger, the betrayal, it had swallowed me whole. And in the process, I was destroying the person I had worked so hard to be. I sat down on the couch, my hands trembling as I gripped the phone. "I've lost myself, haven't I?" "Not lost," Sarah said. "Just buried. But you can find your way back." I let out a long breath, the tension in my body slowly starting to release. "Maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to let go. I think that's the first real step," she said softly. "The right one." I didn't know what would come next, or how I would heal. But I knew one thing. Revenge wasn't the answer. It wasn't going to fill the emptiness inside me. It was time to let the pain go, to stop letting it define who I was. I had given too much of myself to them already. Now I needed to start giving something back to me. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Everything I had buried, every ounce of anger, every bit of pain, I had to say it. I had to let it out. So I walked straight to Eliza's house, my heart pounding. In my chest, my mind screaming for justice. I needed to face her. I needed her to know what she had done. The door opened, and there she was, standing in the doorway with that same smile, the one that had always made me feel like I was her biggest supporter and her biggest fool. "Emily," she said, her voice flat. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to talk," I said, my voice sharp, barely keeping my emotions in check. "No more games, Eliza." She stepped aside, letting me in. "Okay then, what's going on?" I didn't waste time. "You destroyed me. You took everything from me. My time, my love, my sacrifice, everything. And for what? So you could move on with your life and leave me behind?" Her eyes flickered with something, but she quickly masked it with indifference. "Emily, I don't know what you want me to say. I didn't ask you to do any of that." "Of course you didn't. But I thought—" I stopped myself, taking a shaky breath. "I thought you were my sister. I thought you cared. But you don't. You never did. I've been nothing but a pawn in your life, Eliza. A tool for you to get what you wanted." She folded her arms, leaning against the doorframe. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. You could have just walked away, Emily. You could have chosen to let go." "Let go?" I laughed, the sound bitter and empty. "I couldn't. You were my family. I thought you'd be there for me. But you've always been so wrapped up in yourself that you couldn't see what you were doing to me." I paused, feeling the weight of the truth press on me. "You used me, Eliza, and I let you. I let myself be weak for you, and now I'm left with nothing but this mess." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she just stood there, her face unreadable. Then, finally, she spoke, her voice distant. "You always were so dramatic," she said, as though the words meant nothing. "I didn't ask for all of this from you. I don't need you to make everything about you." I could feel my heart drop, the final blow striking me harder than anything she had said before. My world collapsed right then. She didn't care. Not in the way I needed her to. I had expected guilt, maybe even an apology. But instead, I got this. Her indifference, her complete lack of understanding. But then, something strange happened. I felt a shift within myself. The anger that had burned in my chest started to burn away, replaced by something else. Something liberating. She had nothing left to take from me. No more guilt, no more heartache. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was free. "I'm done, Eliza," I said quietly, my voice steady for the first time in ages. "I'm done letting you control my life. I won't beg anymore. I won't cry anymore. This is the end." Her face faltered for a moment, but it didn't matter anymore. She was no longer my priority. "Goodbye, Eliza," I said, turning to leave. As I walked out of the door, I felt lighter than I had in years. I wasn't holding on to the anger anymore. It had lost its grip on me. I had let go. And in doing so, I had found my freedom. I stood there, staring at my phone, the words from Eliza's last message still burning in my mind. "You're overreacting, Emily. I don't have time for this drama." It was the final slap in a long line of them, and now here I was, at a crossroads. Do I really need this? I whispered to myself, staring out the window at the streets below. I had given up so much, so many years of my life, so many pieces of myself. All for what? To be treated like I was invisible? Like I didn't matter at all? My hands shook as I dialed her number. It rang, and for a brief moment, I wondered if I could find the strength to speak. But then, I remembered how she had looked at me. Indifferent. Cold. The pain of it all rushed back, threatening to swallow me whole. I hung up before she could answer. "What am I doing?" I muttered to myself, pacing the room. The thought of confronting her again, of begging her to see what she had done, made me sick. She wouldn't care. She never had. Emily, you can't keep doing this to yourself, I said aloud. I had to make a decision. Either I walked away, left everything behind and started fresh, or I let the bitterness, the anger, consume me. The first choice seemed easy, the answer so clear. But I couldn't stop myself from thinking about how good it would feel to get justice, to make them feel even a fraction of the hurt they had put me through. My chest tightened at the thought. I wanted to make them pay. I wanted to see them regret it. But the truth was, that kind of revenge wouldn't bring me peace. It wouldn't bring me back to the person I had been before all this. I looked at the pile of messages from Eliza, from my family, all piling up, suffocating me. Is this really what I want? I asked, feeling the weight of the question sink deep into my soul. No, it wasn't. Holding on to this anger, this constant feeling of betrayal, was like keeping myself in chains. Every time I let it control me, I was giving up my power. I took a deep breath. The power was always mine, I whispered, more to remind myself than anyone else. I had let them take it. But now I realized I didn't need their approval or their love to feel whole. I was enough. I had been fighting the wrong battle, focused on hurting them, when the real fight was about taking back control of my own life. The chains weren't around them. They were around me. I had the power to break free, and I would. I stood up straighter, feeling a shift in my chest, in my heart. I'm done with this, I said aloud, my voice stronger now. The decision was made. I wasn't going to let them keep me trapped in this cycle. I was walking away, not from my family, not from Eliza, but from the hurt they had caused me. It was time to take back what was mine. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the phone in my hand. The message from Eliza blinked on the screen. Emily, I'm sorry. I've been a terrible sister. Please, let's talk. I let out a breath, unsure of what to feel. I had spent so long imagining what this moment would be like, playing out a million scenarios in my head. I had dreamed of this apology, hadn't I? But now, as I read the words, it didn't feel like the relief I expected. It just felt empty. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to type a response, but then I stopped myself. What was I hoping for? Was this apology really for me? Or was it for her? I'd spent years trying to fix things, trying to make her understand how deeply her actions had hurt me. But that part of me, the part that needed her approval, her redemption, was gone now. Do you really want to go back to that? I asked myself aloud. The question hung in the air, unanswered. I had already moved on, in a way that felt permanent. Pressed my lips together and typed a reply, but this time, it wasn't about fixing anything. I don't need your apology, Eliza. I've already found my peace. The words felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I hit send before I could change my mind. There was nothing left for me in the past. I didn't need to hear her say, sorry. I didn't need to relive everything again. What I needed was peace. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Eliza. Please let me explain. I stared at it for a moment, the old familiar urge to respond clawing at me. But then, I remembered everything I had been through, everything I had let go of. No, I whispered to myself. This isn't my fight anymore. I walked to the window and looked out at the city below, the sky turning pink with the setting sun. A strange sense of calm washed over me. The world had kept turning without me needing to hold on to the anger, the hurt. I could feel myself rebuilding, piece by piece, like a puzzle I had forgotten how to complete until now. I thought about Eliza, about the person she had been to me, and the person I had hoped she could be. But that was a part of me that I no longer needed. She was a reflection of my past, and I no longer wanted to hold on to that. I was done waiting for her to change, for her to make things right. It was time to make things right for myself. I set my phone down and walked away from it, letting the silence fill the room. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her forgiveness. All I needed was to let go. I had already found my own peace. I woke up one morning, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt alive. The weight of everything that had been dragging me down, Eliza's betrayal, my family's indifference, all the anger and hurt, it was gone. It wasn't even a gradual thing. One day, I woke up and realized that I wasn't carrying it anymore. The bitterness, the need for revenge, the endless questions I'd had, they had lifted. And I felt free. I stared at the ceiling, the sunlight streaming in through the window, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the world was against me. The anger that had consumed me, the bitterness I had clung to for so long, it wasn't me anymore. I picked up my phone, hesitating for a moment before dialing Sarah's number. She picked up after the second ring. "Hey, Em, how are you?" "I'm good," I said, and the words felt real. "Better than I've been in a long time." "That's great," she replied, her voice full of warmth. "What's going on?" "I let it go," I told her simply. "All of it. The anger, the bitterness. It's gone." She was quiet for a moment, processing my words. "Are you sure? You've been carrying it for so long. I thought it'd be harder." "It was," I admitted. "It wasn't easy, but once I stopped holding on to the hurt, I realized how much of it was just weighing me down. I don't need it anymore." I could feel the change in me, the shift. It wasn't just about forgiving Eliza, or even moving on from her. It was about forgiving myself. I had blamed myself for too long, for letting her take everything, for believing that I had to earn her love. "You're not a victim anymore, Emily," Sarah said, and I could hear the pride in her voice. "You've taken control back. You're not defined by what they did to you." "No," I said softly, a smile tugging at my lips. "I'm not. I'm in control now. And it feels good." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past settle into something I could finally leave behind. I'm done with the hurt, done with the resentment. The past is just that. Past. It's over. "I'm proud of you," Sarah said, her voice full of sincerity. I hung up the phone and sat back, looking out the window again. The world seemed different now, brighter even. The pain had shaped me, but it no longer defined who I was. I had learned to forgive myself. I had learned that I didn't need anyone's approval to be whole. I didn't need Eliza's love to validate me. I was enough. The story of my betrayal, my hurt, had become nothing but a memory. And in that memory, I saw something else. A person who had endured, who had risen above, and who had found strength in letting go. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was becoming the person I was always meant to be, and it was the best feeling in the world.